And again, I'm here and I'm going to talk about, we're talking about informative speaking with my public speaking class. We're in part 2. We just finished talking about the different types of informative speaking. And now we're going to go right into what is it we talk about what are all the possibilities that we can talk about when we're discussing informative speaking. So let's get right to the PowerPoint. Okay, here we are, determining the subject matter. So you've already had experience with this, right? Determine the subject, an object or an artifact, something that represents something. You're going to make a speech about that, and most of you have already done that. You did a personal symbol speech, and you got to talk about an object, right? Or if you had done the cultural artifact speech, it's the same idea. You had an object that represented something that was related to you. So, or you could just talk about that object. Like for me, I have I don't know if y'all can, let's see if I can pull it over here. If y'all know what a salt lamp is, okay? I could do a whole speech on what a salt lamp is. But if I'm going to talk about an object, I want to actually have that object here when I talk about the speech. So that's one example when we're talking about an object. We want to be able to see it. When we're talking about object, we're talking about something that's physical, something that we can see. Or we're talking about a phenomenon. What is a phenomena exactly? And I decided to look it up for you because I didn't know the exact definition of it. But it is a fact or situation that is observed to exist or happen, especially one whose cause or explanation is in question. Okay, so a phenomena is something that is observed to exist or happen. So if it's called into question, maybe a phenomena, maybe you do a speech on about poltergeists or about ghosts, right? It's something to believe that to exist or happen, but it's hard to prove, right? And there's all kinds of shows out there trying to prove that, maybe, or your speech is about aliens, right? Again, hard to prove. Depends on what your belief set is. That's an example of phenomena. I don't know whether the aurora borealis would be considered phenomena, because it is something that happened and it's proven. You can scientifically prove why it happened. So I don't think that's going to qualify, but it's something, think of phenomena as something that's called into question. Another phenomena, here's an example I just thought of, the phenomena that happens where you see the Virgin Mary. If you're Catholic, you know about this or read about it. Like the Virgin Mary cries her tear, or the Christ statue cries bloody tears, or blood comes out of the, different things. You see different things, or you see like the image of the Virgin Mary in certain places. That's a phenomena. Hard to prove whether it happens or not, but it's something that happens every now and then that people claim to see. Okay, so what else? People. You can give a speech, inform about a person's life, their story of their life, or something that maybe that they did. Let's say you gave a speech about, the name is escaping me right now and I can see her face. It's the woman who flew, Amelia Earhart. There we go. You gave a speech about Amelia Earhart. Maybe you just give a speech about when she did her first flight and what happened at that time. Or you give a speech about her whole life story. Right? Could be a historical speech. You could give a speech about an event, right? An event that happened. It could be about the Art Hop, which is an event. You could talk about an event just in general, what happens at the event, or you could talk about a concert, right? Or an event that happened like 9/11 or the Capitol riots. The Capitol riots. Okay? Or you could talk about a speech, about a process. A process is basically something in sequence, something that you do, a how-to speech, in other words. Like this particular, I'm not going to go over it right now, but I really hope that you take a look at this speech. It's called How to Dance at Charleston. And this young man in the speech does a really good job on how to dance at Charleston. He makes it really easy to understand, and he shows you. If you're going to do how to do a dance step, you have to show us. You can't tell us. So that's the thing about a how-to speech, a process. You have to show us. And the best way to show us is by doing it yourself, not by showing pictures. I'm going to tell you that again and again and again. Is that in a how-to speech, you have to show us how to do it physically with your hands or with your mouth or with your singing or your fan, whatever. You have to physically show us how to do something. That's the best kind of process speech. All right, moving along. Concepts. You can do a speech on a concept, right? On a concept is an idea, right? The concept of, I don't know, let's see, the concept of marriage, the concept of love. What is a relationship? The concept of faith, the concept of trust. Those are concepts, ideas. And then issues, right? Social issues. I have that because a lot of times I teach students how to give speeches on social issues. Issues mean things that matter, things that are in the public concern right now. It can't be, or you want to bring awareness to something that should be in our concern, something that we didn't know about before, but they have to do with society in our community. All right. Strategies for communicating that information. You got to keep it simple, folks. The best speeches are non-complicated. Don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. If you need to think about it, I want you to look at some political speeches. The best political speeches are the ones where the politician uses speech that's really understandable and it's simple. The terms are simple. The examples are simple. They're not hard to understand. Not because they think people are stupid. It is because it's easier to understand. And that's what you're after. You're not after trying to the speech isn't necessarily to teach us anything. It's to provide information. The best way to provide information is to keep it as simple as possible. And simple doesn't necessarily mean easy. It just means easy to understand. Keep it concrete. So concrete versus abstract. Concrete is something that's physical. Something we can relate to. We can imagine in our minds. When you talk about something abstract, like love is abstract. Love means different things to different people. Faith is abstract. That's why it's good to connect it to something physical, right? Love is usually connected to a heart or can be connected to something else. But we want to have something physical, whether it's something literal physical or like a sound, something that's physical. Okay, you can see my cat in the background. All right. Be repetitive and be redundant. Being repetitive and being redundant can't be overstated. Be repetitive in your speech. Be redundant. Remind us. Tell us again. Build on your information. Don't just keep saying the information over and over again. Build on it, but be repetitive and redundant in the way you say it, right? Remind us. Good public speaking does that. Elicit active responses, meaning make us respond with your information. That's in the way that you engage your audience and you do it in an entertaining way that makes us laugh or that makes us frown or that makes us want to clap. You want to use your strategies in public speaking to elicit some kind of response. Use familiar and relevant examples. So you want to use examples that we can relate to. If you go off on a tangent and talk about something like students who are computer people love to talk about how to build a computer. That's interesting, but when you have to explain there's certain, especially with computer language, there are certain words related to computers that a lot of people don't know. And you know what? If you're not in that world, it's boring. I hate to say it, but if you're not in that world, it's boring. So really try to think about when you come up with your topic that people will find it relatable and interesting. We relate to other people and their experience. So the more you do something like that, the more it's related to something that people could relate to it, everyone could relate to it, the better your topic, the more relevant your examples will be. You can do something far out if you give relevant and metaphorical examples that people can relate to. I mean, that's your challenge. on your topic. Okay. And finally, don't forget to use transitions and signposts, right? You have to let us know that you're transitioning from one idea to the next idea. Use those transitions and those signposts to let us know that you're moving around in your speech. These are organizational pieces in your speech that have to be there because remember, we're not reading your speech, we're hearing it. So we need all of those little signals. All right, let's review the organization patterns and we'll finish up with this lecture. The first one is spatial. If you recall what spatial means, it's related to actually something, how things are physically placed next to each other. Oftentimes, the spatial organization of a speech, meaning it's how you put the speech together, through your outline. But when you talk about it, they're in physical location or relationship to each other. So I always use the art hut as an example, but you could talk about it in terms of a museum. You could talk about it in terms of a fair. But they're actually physical locations, real things that happen. Temporal or chronological. If you have a how-to speech, it's going to be temporal because it follows in pattern. It has a sequence. If you're doing a speech on history, it has a sequence. It follows a sequence. It's chronological from 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago to now, right? There's a chronological pattern. If you're starting from history, usually means in the past to the forward. Or you could start from now and go back in history. Okay. Narrative pattern. That's when you decide to tell a story. You use your speech to tell a story. Now, a narrative pattern means you use this throughout. You begin with telling the story. That's your introduction. You move into all the people that are in the story. What's the story about? Just like you would do in storytelling, right? It will include a plot. Who's the villain? Who's the protagonist, right? And you would give your speech, deliver your speech in that way, using those kinds of identifiers. Finally, cause and effect. So you can do a cause and effect speech without being persuasive by just talking about cause and effect. Science is about cause and effect, right? What causes pollution? And the effect is pollution. So fossil fuel and agriculture causes air pollution, right? Cause, effect. You have to give the research to back it up, and then the research to back up the effect, cause, effect. Categorical. That's a kind of speech, and we've talked about this, is the speech where you have these different, you have one main topic, and then you have 3 different ways to discuss that topic. So let's take, not going to take wolves. Let's take, I'm trying to look in my room of what I could use. Let's take this. Okay, let's take this crystal. I don't even remember what the name of this is. But let's say I could talk about this crystal, and one is by the name of it. Okay. Then I could talk about in terms of how crystals form. Then maybe I could talk about like, I don't know. It's bad when I come off the top of my head. So I talk about what is it made from, and then I could talk about how it could be used. Okay, the various uses for it. Now, those 3 things I could actually put in any order. That's what categorical means. It means I have this thing, this is my main topic, and I have 3 different ways I can discuss it, and I can put it in any order that I want. Not one, but they also have to be of equal value, meaning equal weight. So how I talk about what it is, what its name, its genus, etc., and then how I talk about how it's used, and then how I talk about what its materials are, right? They all have to be weighted equally in terms of how I talk about that in the speech. That's what categorical means. Okay, we're just about done. So here's just some sample of informative speeches that may help you understand what an informative speech is, and they do not attempt to get you